Bully! Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone! From the Rough Riders! The Rough Riders most especially should know that after my presidency, I prefer to be called by my old military title, Colonel. And throughout the day, I hope you'll simply address me as one of your fellow Rough Riders, as Colonel. All of those greetings, historically accurate, stand in such stark contrast to the young man I met this morning down by the hotel. Perhaps he'd been in his cups already this morning. I was walking down the street with my top hat. He pointed at me and told his friends, he said, "Look, there's the Monopoly dude." Quite humbling as an old politician, I assure you. And if he knew his history as well as you, he would have known I was the anti-Monopoly dude. When the battleship Maine was sunk in Havana Harbor, February 15th, 1898, I was serving the country as the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, the #2 man in the Navy. The thing I liked most about being the Assistant Secretary of the Navy was that whenever the former governor of Massachusetts, the Secretary of the Navy, the elderly John Long, when he was away from the nation's capital, it left me as the acting secretary in the pilot house of the Navy. The War Department and Congress, legislation had been passed by Congress after the declaration of war the very day, allowing for the raising of 3 volunteer regiments of cavalry. The 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry is our regiment. I was offered command of the regiment. I told the Secretary of War, Secretary Alger, that I had been a member of the New York National Guard, and I thought I might need a week or 2 of combat experience in order to lead the regiment. Colonel Leonard Wood was a wonderful commanding officer, and of course, as was General Joe Wheeler, the man in charge of all cavalry in Cuba. You realize that General Wheeler had been a cavalry general under Lee for the Confederacy. Now it was the Spanish-American War that united the gray and the blue beneath the red, white, and blue. We, of course, arrived at Tampa, and you know the story better than most. We were so ill-prepared and ill-organized, as we've been ill-prepared and ill-organized for every war in which we've ever fought. After some weeks, of course, it was the newspaperman who wrote that the United States had an army of occupation, and they were occupying the veranda of a grand hotel in Tampa. And thank you for what you do to keep the history of the Plant Hotel and the wonderful museum alive there as well, with the Rough Riders participating in the many programs there. Word came, and sad it was, off to Cuba we would go, but 1/3 of the Rough Riders would be left behind for lack of transport. Grown men cried for not getting into the war. To the officers, may the war last long enough that we're all either wounded, killed, or promoted. And of course, you know we were. The Rough Riders took more casualties than any other volunteer regiment in Cuba. 20% of the enlisted men wounded or killed, 30% of the officers. But not for lack of training, but for the fact that we always rushed to the sound of the guns. You gentlemen and ladies of the Tampa Rough Riders, you're doing so. One never stands so tall as but when one stoops to help a child. Your teddy bear program is helping children. There's so much more that I look to learn about what you do here in the community. And there must be something in the water for some of your facial hairs turning green. Have to get the environmental department working on that. The history of the Rough Riders. You're keeping it alive and well. You're doing good deeds in the community. Good deeds here at the parade and the other events that you attend. Good deeds at your schools and at the hospitals. Well, this is America. No good deed goes unpunished.
There you go.
Certainly no good deed goes without its second guessing, its Monday morning quarterbacking, its criticism. Persist in your good deeds. The Republic needs them now more than ever. And when you're criticized, I hope you might take heart from some words I famously shared with the French a century ago at the Sorbonne, the University of Paris. This in April 1910, after my son Kermit and I had been hunting in Africa after my presidency. As in the old African proverb I was wont to quote, and first did so at the State Fair in St. Paul in 1901 as your vice president. Speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far. Persist in your good deeds. And when you are Monday morning quarterbacked, second-guessed, and criticized, take heart and remember, it is not the critic who counts. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man, and today to the woman, who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short to gain it again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great devotions, the great enthusiasms, who spends herself in a worthy cause, and who in the end, at the best, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, that his name shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. That when life knocks you down, you're to get back up again, dust yourself off, and get back into the fight for life. Now, you may say, as one senator said at the White House, "Mr. President, you're preaching." I said, "Senator, you're right. And the presidency is a bully pulpit, too." Well, each and every one of you, as a Rough Rider, has a bully pulpit to help advocate and act indeed for a better community. So I conclude with a bit of out-of-characteristic humility. Perhaps I'm best known for the legacy of a failure. A failed bear hunt in Onward, Mississippi, when I refused to shoot a bear that had been wounded and tied to a tree. The story embarrassingly spread throughout the country. The cartoonist Clifford Berryman, hearing that story, drew a cartoon of the incident, called it "Drawing the Line in Mississippi." The cartoon showed me refusing to shoot a small bear cub tied to a tree. When I returned to the White House, I received a letter from the Mictum family, small candy makers, toy manufacturers in Brooklyn, New York, eventually the Ideal Toy Company of New York City. Mrs. Mictum, in her letter to me, asking permission to make a stuffed bear and to name it after me. I wrote back, I said, "You may go ahead and do so, but I don't think it will help your sales very much at all." I wonder if any of you have known the love and comfort of what then was called Teddy's Bear, with the apostrophe possessor S. Of course you do. You give thousands of teddy bears out every year to the children in need and the programs that support the young people. And I just want to say I'm inspired by the public service that you're giving, and most especially inspired by the chairman of your parade committee today. And here we are. Ready? Hold that teddy bear up. And I'll hold this teddy bear up. The original said, "Life offers no greater reward than working hard at work worth doing." You found a way to make the fun work worth doing for the community. And I just want to salute you and just say that I'm delighted to be with you. And I wish Godspeed to each and every one of you. Thanks for being a Rough Rider. It means the world to me. I have never said this before. I'm looking forward to wearing these party beads tonight.
I hope you enjoy it.
I shall. Thank you kindly. Bully. How about a grip and a grin? Now, am I understanding correctly? To be president, you must either be tall or round. Okay. One, two, three. Bully! That put the fear into the Spanish.
That's a spirit. Well done.
Gentlemen, thanks so much.
Thank you.